Okay, so I learned some lessons since we were traveled. We'll talk a little bit of
Yeah,
travel.
let's talk about what you're doing spring break.
So we went to Savannah, which I highly recommend, especially if you're going like on an adults only trip. Like we're past the age of going out to the nightlife,
Yeah.
but
Does
it
Savannah
was
have nightlife?
yeah, actually I was kind of
I mean,
shocked.
They're a big city. They got a nightlife.
But I did learn that you're not allowed to take your butane lighter on an airplane.
As a carrier?
So
Probably.
you can pack it.
You
in your-
can,
yeah, you
okay.
can pack it. But you are not allowed to take it as a carry-on. So unfortunately, that was my favorite cigar, so I had to buy another one. It's not as loud though, listen. It's still, I guess it is kind of loud, but it's,
So did you just have to drop it at the gate? Did you have to chunk it?
yeah, they took it from me. I said, is there any way I can pick it up when I get back? She was like, well, we can do, I was like, yeah, it's not worth that much to me. Got to meet Paula Dean. That was kind of cool.
I saw those pictures.
Yeah, my wife was very, very excited about that. Which is, I mean, I was happy for her. Like, the whole reason we really even went to Savannah was so she could, partake in the things that she would watch on the show when Paula Dean was popular. One of the things about it, though, is like we got to meet her, and she sat down at our table, and I told her, I was like, look, I'm so sorry that those people did that to you.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, sweetheart, it was so nice of you to say that, but I was just a minnow amongst sharks. I didn't even really know what was happening. I was like, yeah, I probably can see that,
Yeah.
I mean, and she could have been playing the game just as much as, I was just trying to be nice, but she was very personable. She went around the entire restaurant and sat down at almost every single table. Then she got pulled into their store because she wasn't supposed to be there.
Okay.
She was just there for the St. Patrick's Day parade. And, but she was very generous to every person in
That's nice.
in that restaurant.
That's really nice.
We were there for about 2 hours. She never sat down. She never stopped taking pictures. She never, I know it's her business and I understand that, but still, she didn't have to do that.
Yeah.
So it was very, very nice. We got to meet her son, Jamie. What's the longest you ever gone without getting an inspection?
Oh, a long time.
I went 5 years, brother.
Oh, never mind.
2018 to 2023, and the only reason I got it done is because my daughter was getting her driver's license and she had to take the driver's test in that car, or I would still not have it done. It's still that was the last time I had it done. 23.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm 2 years in. You know what? I pay so much taxes. This is the libertarian coming out in me. I pay so much taxes. I don't want to pay to get my truck registered. They know where I live. My driver's license is up to date. I did do that though. I will get my driver's license updated.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to drive on a expired driver's license.
Yeah. Well, I got pulled over once with an expired driver's license. He didn't say a word about it. Now it was a couple months. But,
Well, there's a difference between months and 5 years.
and if he would have said something, I would have said, hey, I've got the appointment. It's just, have you tried to make an appointment to get your license renewed? And for some reason, I couldn't do it online, which it had been less than 5 years since the last time. Like, I don't know. That was upsetting to me. But
Mine was I delayed getting it done. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to get it done over spring break. Well, 2020 rolls around, even though I was 2 years in. I had an appointment for spring break. Well, then that's when everything shut down. Then I was like, you know what? Let's just see how long I can go.
yeah. Became a game for you. We went the other direction. We went to Vegas. It's a place we go a few times a year. It's probably our favorite travel city. A little cooler. This is the earliest we've ever gone. We normally don't start heading out that way till April or even May, but going in March, first 2 days we were out there, it was pretty chilly. I've never had it really that chilly in Vegas. Like at night, it's the desert. So I've been there in November, and it can get chilly at night, but it's still nice during the day. But even during the day, it was windy and cold.
Yeah, it was chilly when we were there too. It rained the first full day we were there, but
Yeah.
I didn't mind. We didn't have no kids. We literally Ubered in food.
But I can't decide if I will ever go back that particular week to Vegas because it was March Madness weekend.
Oh,
And so, and the kind of the few days leading up, we left out very early, like 1 a.m. early on Saturday. So we had a red-eye flight to leave. So we came in Tuesday. and it was very, very frat boy. I mean, lots of guy groups. I mean, people with their own shirts and jerseys made up. Talking to them, they make this trip every single year, and I'm sure that's a ton of fun. And we had fun. Like, we'd watch games, and like I told you, you gave me some betting advice, and I lost some money.
Yeah,
but not a
advice from
lot.
me.
Not a lot. Like,
Thank God.
I was betting very small, just like because, and that's what these guys do. So I was talking to some of the groups of guys that come every year for March Madness, and what they were saying is they always bet the underdogs no matter what, because they're such huge odds.
Oh, yeah.
Like the Utah State game that I bet on, right? So I put like $20 on that game. It was a plus 850. I would have won 190 on $20 if they would have won. And so
okay, well, that
they
makes
only
sense.
bet. So they'll go and bet like 10 or 12 underdogs. If one or two of them hit, they made some money.
It's a bad year for underdog betting, though.
Yeah, it seems like all of the favorites are winning.
Well,
Not all of them, but it seems like
there's a good portion of them.
I haven't heard about any huge upsets, but I haven't been paying
Well,
attention.
that has a lot to do with the NIL. There's a lot to do with that. Those guys that would typically be able to go and take a, at a mid-major like a McNeese or a FAU, Florida Atlantic University, they aren't able to compete anymore because those guys go and they have 1 year of success or maybe even a half a season of success, enter the transfer portal,
and wind up at the big school. That is interesting because March Madness has always been the place where the small schools could be right there in it.
Right.
That's changing.
And it'll be interesting how this whole NIL thing plays out. I don't know how much of attention you paid to it, but it'll be like the portal opened today.
Okay.
So like schools that are still in the tournament
Wow.
have players that have entered the portal.
Uh-huh.
So how does the coach handle that?
If they're good, let them play.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
But my problem with frat boy in Vegas is they don't know gambling etiquette. All right. Now, I have two totally separate stories and actually a third, but I'm not going to tell a third. So, for the most part, if you sit down at a blackjack table with a bunch of frat boy dudes, and like there's 5 or 6 seats at every blackjack table. So many times it was me, maybe one other guy, and like 4 dudes that all went to school together. They're here on a trip watching March Madness week. Here's the thing, man. Like, you don't cheer for every card that comes out. Like, I know. They're just drunk and happy. Like, but I'm talking about if you get a blackjack or if you split some aces and blackjack on both of them, yeah, you can stand up and cheer at that point, but not every time a card comes out. Like, or every time the dealer busts. If the dealer busts, I might give it like a 2 clap, like, all right, everybody.
Like a little golf clap.
Like I say, like, all right, clap, clap, table win, and that's all I say. Like, you just kind of keep it. But these guys, and what bothered me the most is if you get an ace thrown on your first card that comes out, the customary thing to do is you tap the table, and that you don't say anything. You just 2 taps. That means good luck. You can do a double fist. You can sometimes just say good luck. Depends on if you're getting chatty. Most of the time, you just give the table a 2 tap, and that's like, hey, you just got an ace. I hope you get a face card. Good luck. Like, and I was doing that for them, but if I got an ace, and we're doing it, and like it's just table etiquette.
Maybe they didn't know.
I mean, they had seen it done.
Okay. I would not have known to do that.
Yeah, but you kind of see it, and you're like, oh, okay, you pick up on that.
Okay.
And so it just bugs me. But I will say, there are some guys from Michigan. They went to Michigan, and they were there, watching the game. And these guys were betting a lot of money, probably daddy's money. I don't know. They're college kids. I mean, they're betting a lot. And they knew all the etiquette, very polite, like good gambling etiquette. They played by the rules. And I like a full table if everybody's playing by the rules.
Okay.
If people stop playing by the rules, I'll give you 1, maybe not even that. Most of the time, if you stop playing by the rules, I just get up. Because then I can't control what happens. Like, I don't know what's going to happen.
Oh, if they're unpredictable bettors.
The thing I like about blackjack...
Like you get a 16 or whatever, and you have it.
And the dealer's showing a 2.
Yeah. And they don't... Okay, I see what you're saying.
Yeah. And there's a certain etiquette even to that. Like, for example, the dealer was showing a 2. I got a 2. The book, let's say the book, it's the rules. So you can hit on that. Because you're showing a 2, the dealer's showing a 2. It's a 50-50.
Okay.
You can stay or you can hit. There's a kid, again, on the other side of the table. His first bet was $300. Way more than I'm betting, by the way. I mean, these kids are betting a lot of money. He gets another 8, splits it, so it's another 300. Gets another 8, splits it, that's another 300. That third 8 gets a 3 put on top of it, so he doubles down. So by the time he's done getting cards, he has $1,200 on the table.
Holy cow.
It came around to me. I always sit last rep. I want to get my cards last. And I have a 2 and the dealer's got a 2, and I just looked at him. I said, what do you want me to do? And that's the proper etiquette thing to do. People think that's dumb. It is not. A guy has $1,200 on the table, and I've got 50. Like, all right, dude, you want me to take a card? And he's like, no, stay. And sure enough, I stayed. Dealer busted. The dude won $1,200. Like,
So does he throw you a chip?
You do.
He throws
No,
you a chip,
no.
right? No.
Sometimes they will, but he didn't, and that's totally fine. I don't ever expect that. I expect if you win big like that, you need to tip your dealer. Like, you tipped the dealer $100. He just won 12.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's less than 10% when you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's an etiquette to it. I would say, honestly, I'm probably a little more jaded. Probably a little less than 50-50 with the frat boy guys just being inconsiderate. And not
that would be
dealing with
frustrating.
etiquette. So I don't know if we'll go back on March Madness week. It was a fun weekend, though. It was really fun to – because normally I will spend a little time sitting in a sports book, but a lot of times we go in the summer.
Yeah, you can bet all kinds of stuff in the summer.
Well, I mean,
At
what I
least
mean
baseball.
is like, yeah, but like baseball's good betting, but I do like to bet. We went in October once, and and so I bet on the Cowboy game that day, and they won, and it was awesome. They were underdog. So that was good. Like, but it was fun to have those because they're such short games. You know, they go quick.
They go pretty quick too.
And big good crowd, all in the sports book, all being loud, and that was fun. But yeah, we like Vegas.
The bad thing about mine, that one bad part of the trip, is we flew out on Saturday morning, and those terrible storms were going through the East Coast, going towards the West Coast. We got on the plane. I don't remember what time we were supposed to take off, but for example, we were supposed to take off at it was pretty early in the morning, like 8 o'clock. We get on the plane, we got there at 8. I think we were supposed to take off at 10 or 11. Get on the plane, normal time. We sit on the runway.
That's the worst.
For 2.5 hours.
Oh, that is the worst.
So long that they timed out. The pilot and the crew timed out,
Yes.
so they had to take us back to the gate. They're like, all right, guys, we have to sit here for at least 45 minutes. You can either deplane and go stretch your legs, or you can just sit and see what happens. Well, because they weren't really sure if we were even going to get out. And I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my gosh. So the frat boys that were next to me, SMU lawyer school, by the way.
Okay.
That's the kind of people that were on this airplane. He's sitting in the window seat next to me, and his buddies are in the aisle across, and he's calling his dad saying, "Dad, can we get the private jet to go?" And I'm like, I look at the kid, I'm like, y'all got private jet money? He's like, he does. And I'm like,
Yeah.
Oh, we're in a different tax bracket. Like, I'm just a teacher here trying to get away from, life for a few days.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I don't think he'll be able to get us out of here because we already tried. And his dad said no.
Yeah.
And so the problem was, though, is there was no other flight to Savannah until Monday. Well, at that point, we wouldn't have been able to go, but it ended up being almost an 8-hour layover. Jeez. Not layover, but delay. We ended up getting there at like 6 o'clock in the evening.
That's a long day.
But I will say, the kids that were on the airplane, the little kids, either they're very experienced flyers or their parents just have the patience of Job, because I never heard any kids crying or, being real, over the top as far as like behavior wise, which was nice.
That is nice.
But so that brings up the next question. How long is too long of a layover?
To be sitting on a plane, that's way too long. Like, I hate any type of delays when I'm actually in the seat in the plane.
So what about 9 months? You see the astronauts that got stuck up in the International Space Station for 9 months?
Yeah. But have you seen...
It was supposed to be a layover. They were only supposed to be there like 6 days.
Yeah, no. But have you seen, like, the conspiracy theorist on this thing is, like, on steroids?
Yes, I've followed just a little bit.
You always get a little conspiracy theory with every single thing that happens, but this one, it is wild. All the way from, like, the West ones are the flat earthers and the we don't never go to space people. They're having a heyday with this because apparently her hair was darker.
Yeah.
Which I get. It doesn't make sense, but I don't care that much, man.
They do.
They care a lot. They're making some
Did
videos.
you see they took those flat Earth people to Antarctica?
No.
I saw some guy on YouTube was doing
Okay.
this. He and it was on the Rogan podcast too. But then I followed up with it, and they took them to the flat earthers, the top experts in the field. I don't know. They took them to Antarctica.
Like Shaq.
And Kyrie's a flat earther.
There's a
too.
lot of NBA players that are flat earthers. I don't know
Yeah.
what the connection
Yeah,
is there,
I don't either.
but there's a lot.
So they took him to Antarctica, where in the time of the year where the sun's up for 24 hours for like 12 days or something like that.
Yeah.
And so like the next day, the guy came back and posted on the Reddit, was like, guys, I was there. I saw it. The earth really is round. Well, then they started saying, you've been bought out. You've been, I'm like, guys, the earth, I mean, you can say what you want, but there's no way the earth is not in a sphere.
Hey, you would like this as a history teacher. My favorite question to the flat earthers is, how did Japan sail to Hawaii? Because on the flat earth sphere map, Japan's way over there and Hawaii's way over here. Like,
So we always talk about in my class, like when the European
That was a
explorers,
long sailing.
Yeah, it's a long.
and they picked Hawaii. Why not New York if you're coming from that direction?
I don't know. We always talk about, like, did the European explorers have reasonable thought to think that they were going to leave Europe and go to Asia when they were trying to get the spice trade? Long story short. And a lot of my kids are like, no, why would they do that? I'm like, they didn't know it was there. Like,
Yeah.
they had an idea that there was land, but they definitely didn't think there was two full continents there full of whatever.
Man, these guys are just so dumb too. Like, you hear them talk, and I forget what one of them was saying, but I had a really good point.
Sorry.
No, it was just like what he was saying makes zero sense. And oh man, my favorite. I did pick up on this though. We apparently have never been to Mars because all the Mars pictures. Have you seen this conspiracy?
Mm-mm.
All the Mars pictures match this exact island called Devon Island, like the rock formations and everything. Oh no, I was remember what I was going to say. One of the flat earther guys talking about space. He said, I interviewed a United Airlines pilot, and he told me that they know that the Earth is flat, and they are sworn to secrecy not to tell anyone. So every airline pilot, not to mention every private pilot and civilian pilot, just does it on their, because they can't be sworn to secrecy. So
Just does it on their own.
So they just do it on their own. They just say, "Oh yeah." So every single person who's flown a plane, not to mention,
like, you go.
what about
up
all
and
the people in the plane?
You look out there and you can see the horizon. That doesn't ever.
If the pilot can see the Earth is flat, why can't the 300 people in the airplane see the Earth is
here's
flat?
the other thing too. Like, I'm all about a good conspiracy theory. Like, I love a good conspiracy, and I will do my best to, like, buy into it as much as feasibly possible.
Yeah.
But that's not one that I've ever been like, yeah, I can see where you got a pretty good point there.
A lot of times I can listen to people with conspiracy theories and say, I don't think that, but you can think that. When it comes to the flat earthers, I'm like, you're stupid.
You're stupid.
You're just stupid.
You're attention seeking.
Yeah. Or you're dumb.
And so while we're finishing up this conversation about traveling, I'm worried about my favorite airline, Southwest Airlines, and their think tank of doing away with bags fly free.
Let me tell you something.
I'm worried about that.
I'm worried about it too, but I'm A-list preferred because I fly a lot for work, and my wife has their credit card, so we'll still get to do bags fly free.
So will we.
So it's fine, but I will tell you this: I didn't like it, even though it doesn't affect us, which is kind of dumb. And some friends of mine pointed that out because I made a post on Facebook about it. But they're like, dude.
This is the hill you're going to die
Yeah,
on.
I know. Yeah.
Right?
Like, what are you getting mad about? Just even one of my friends even said, he's the audio engineer in Nashville, by the way, who listens to this and gives me all kinds of pointers about how my audio stinks. He was like, there's so many other things in this world to worry about. And I'm like, you're right.
You're definitely right
You're
about
definitely
that.
right.
So I was telling my wife about it, and she was like, well, the way that I judge about how we fly, because she's the one that books all of our flights.
Yeah.
And because she kind of knows the schedule of the kids the best and kind of knows when's the best fly. She was like, there's two things. One, price. Two, is it nonstop?
Yeah.
Those are the two.
Exactly.
The thing. And she was like, we're not gonna fly the puddle jumpers. We're not doing that. So if we can't afford to fly, then we'll just drive. Or if we can't afford it, then we probably don't need to go.
Yep.
I was like, okay, well, that's a valid
Well,
point.
I had an experience. We always fly Southwest. almost all the time. And that's because that's where our points are. And we're blessed to live in the Dallas Metroplex. And that's where the Southwest hub is. So you can fly all the places they fly. Plus American's hub is here as well. So we're really blessed. And Southwest flies just about all the places we like to go.
Same.
So we always fly Southwest. Well, we were supposed to come back from Vegas on Thursday, but it was starting to warm up. The March Madness thing was kind of fun, so we decided we would stay an extra day and stay through Friday. Well, we could not. That's one thing about Southwest. It is not easy to book a next day flight with them because all of their cheap seats are booked up, and you got to pay for their like extra premium to get the seats. So it was super expensive. I'm like, well, we'll fly a different airline, buddy. Let me tell you something. Anybody who wants to talk about Southwest, just like Southwest is definitely.
Hold on. Can I guess what you flew? I have no idea what you flew. Can I guess?
You can guess. You'll probably get it wrong, but it is close.
Frontier?
Yes, that's right. I thought you were going to say Spirit.
No, I knew because I know exactly what you're going to say. Go ahead. I had a buddy that told me the same story, same style story.
All I'm going to say is like Southwest is amazing. First of all, I think everyone else on that Frontier flight had never been on an airplane before. Like you've got people coming down the aisle and like reorganizing their luggage before they put it up in the carry-on bin. Like trying to get, I'm going to need this. I'm going to get stuff out. Like a line behind. I did the priority boarding because I just didn't want to know how it was going to be. So I was already sitting on the plane, but it probably took us 45 to 50 minutes to get everybody on the plane.
Those stewardesses on Southwest will start getting you.
Oh, that's ridiculous. And so, but not only that, but we flew out super late. I didn't like it at all. I'm sorry, Southwest. You are good. Like, honestly, we'll keep flying Southwest. And if American's better, we'll fly American. And the way we judge that is here's a Southwest flight. Here's the American flight with checking a bag, if we're checking a bag. You know?
Yeah.
And that's how we do it. And that's how we'll do it. But, man, I'm sorry for all the things I thought and said about Southwest these last couple of weeks when they made that announcement after flying Frontier. You know what's really bad about it? This is going to tell you.
So my buddy is a little bit of a larger gentleman. He's not. He's bulky.
Yeah,
and he said those seats are narrow.
Yeah,
he said they're very narrow.
And they're like plastic. You ever been in the back of a cop car?
No.
Okay, well, it's not a padded seat back there. It's just a plastic seat. You said that's basically the way, and it's like 12 inches wide. That's your seats on Frontier.
No, I never been in the back of a cop car.
Yeah, that's the way it is. They're just plastic.
Did you fall in love in the back of a cop car?
I did not.
Okay, well that's good.
But yeah, that was that. But to tell you how badly we wanted to stay an extra day because we flew back Frontier, we had to land at DFW. Our truck was at Love because we took off Southwest.
Clint, I'm kind of judging you right now.
I know. Everybody who hears this is gonna be like, "You're an idiot." But we wanted to stay an extra day, and we couldn't fly back to Love Field, so we flew back. Our flight left at 1 a.m. and from Vegas, which is 3 a.m. here in Texas.
What'd you do? Uber?
Yes.
Okay.
And so we landed 3 hours later, so basically 6 a.m. Texas time. Well, it was like a 2.5 hour flight.
And you have kids that are getting up at that time.
Yeah, 5:30 a.m. Texas time is when we landed.
You're getting home
took
at
forever.
7-ish.
Took forever again. Yeah, to get off the plane because these people have never been on an airplane before. Thankfully, we hardly ever check a bag, especially for a quick trip. So we just walked off the plane, hopped in an Uber to Love Field, said, "Hey, drop me off at this parking garage right here," and drove home. And, I mean, it wasn't like a horrible thing. Ubers are right there. It was 1 minute to get an Uber, and
that's not terrible.
So yeah,
at least you didn't have to Uber all the way home.
No. It's hard to get them that will. You'll have them accept your trip and then deny it. Or we've been out here and wanted to Uber to Dallas, and they won't accept it. So.
Yeah, we have a guy in our neighborhood that does like on the neighborhood chat or whatever Facebook group, and he'll pick you up and take you.
Yeah, that's nice.
But we just either find someone or just pay for it.
Yeah. Spring break travel.
So did you fill out a bracket at all?
I did not.
I did. I'm not good at this.
I'm not
good at the brackets.
My son did. He told me he's got 4 losses. So I think that's
pretty good.
Pretty good.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I picked some upsets that didn't go through for me, so it's okay. My final 4 is still there, so I'm still at least able to win the bracket if I can. But of course, I picked Duke to win the whole thing.
He probably, I haven't looked at it, he probably picked a lot of the favorites, and you said it's been not a great year for underdogs. Yeah,
not a great year for underdogs, so. Yeah, and typically you always pick 1 or 2 or 3, and I picked 5 underdogs, which kind of hurt me.
Yeah.
So it's all right. So let's talk a little bit about that track incident Did you see? You know what I'm talking about?
I was going to ask you because you know the rules. I ran track in high school. I don't think I ever put a baton up that high.
So what we're talking about
Do
is
you see anybody ever running like that?
No.
You're not supposed to,
No,
right? Isn't there,
no.
Is there a rule?
There's no rules. It's just kind of
It
understood.
doesn't seem aerodynamic either.
No.
To be up here.
Well, and you're running at a high level. That girl was running at a high level.
Yeah. Was it college?
I think so. If not, it was at a very competitive meet, and you're still running at a very, very fast. And she said that that's just her running technique. No. You
If
whack
it is,
somebody
can they go back
twice.
and see some other videos?
Well,
of
I'm
her
sure
running and
there
see?
is.
You know,
I'm sure. But she whacked somebody 3 times, twice in the head, causing that girl to have a concussion to fall out of the race.
I can't imagine even like thinking about running relays and having the arm control to whack somebody in the head as you're running too.
Yeah.
They're running.
It was 100% that she whacked that girl on the head for no particular reason. And those things are hard too. Like those batons are some of them are made of like aluminum or even the really expensive ones are even more aerodynamic and have like a spiral to them and they're titanium.
Oh wow.
And so they're really light.
Yeah.
So
that's not going to give.
No. And if if you're running and you're running in proper form, that baton is going right by your ear.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And she was running out like this,
Yeah, just
extending the elbow and everything. And she was definitely trying to hit that girl.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not about you. That's what she tried to make it. Oh, my mental is. I'm like, no, just say you're sorry. Like, I got competitive in the moment and I hit her in the head. But that's assault.
Still, it is. Yeah. That's not being competitive. Just run faster.
Yeah. And it just, yeah. She definitely doesn't. She definitely hit that girl in the head. And the Rangers are starting this week.
Yep, Thursday.
I would love to go to opening day at some point in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely on the bucket list of things that I would like to do.
This would be a good one because, like, I'm not trying to jinx anything, but I think it's going to be a pretty good year.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like we're going back and going to repeat, but I think it's going to be a good year. So it'd be like cool to say like, hey, the 2025 season, I was there for opening day.
Yeah, and I think that the Rangers are setting up really well. I was listening on the way. They've cut the 40-man roster down to 39. They put Dane Dunning on waivers. I think he'll end up back with the team. They're just trying to stay under that tax threshold for the third consecutive year. Not going to bore people with with contract talk, but I think that the Rangers are in a very, very good position. They have depth in pitching. They got some young pitchers. They got some veteran pitchers. We're very depth heavy in the infield and middle infield, which is very, very good.
Yeah.
We have 2 catchers now.
Yeah.
So if Josh Young can stay healthy and, Langford can come through like they're saying he's going to, and Evan Carter comes back healthy.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he had a rough week last week. I don't want to bore people with spring training talk, but I mean, it's looking like it's trending in a better direction this year than it did last year.
I hope we see more consistency with Josh Young. He had bright spots and dim spots not last year, but even the
year before,
even World Series year.
Yeah, but he was injured last year so much.
So
weird
that's
injuries
what I'm saying. I'm
too.
not judging him for last year, but even the World Series year, it was like, I don't know. So yeah, we're not going to talk too much about it. Games get going, we'll talk about it. But
I'm excited though.
Yeah.
I'm excited, and not Mav talk, but the Mavs did win today. Anthony Davis played. I'm still not. I don't want to bore people with Luka talk, but I'm still not over it, and I'm not sure that I'll ever get over it. I'm just not sure. And my
generational
wife,
player. I mean,
not only that, but like it has to do with Dirk. And Cuban came out last week and was like, I was against the trade.
Yep.
They texted me, and I thought they were asking my permission, and they weren't. They were telling me what was happening, and I told them I thought that was basically stupid.
Yeah.
Like, why would you do that? So I just think that now Dirk has come out and said that, he didn't know it was happening. He's been kind of removed from the organization for the last 2 years, which makes me really sad. But I'm not going to be a Laker fan, but I'll always be a Luka fan. I mean, he's he's breaking Kobe's records. He's broke several LeBron's records. I mean, he had like a stat line that it took Kobe 8 seasons to get and LeBron 5 seasons to get, and he got it in 6 games.
Yeah.
I don't know. They did win tonight, though, so that's good. Anthony Davis is back. Gafford is supposed to be coming back. P.J. Washington's playing well. So I'll root for the players, and then everybody but Nico Harrison.
I'm not saying we need to make the playoffs, or right now we're just one spot out, right? Last I looked.
Yeah. I haven't checked it. I didn't check it with the win tonight where that put us, but I mean, I'll support the players, and I'm a Mavs fan, but I just hate Nico Harrison. I hate it for what he did.
Mm-hmm.
You killed the fan base, and now it's going to take a long time. If they win the championship this year, it makes it a little bit easier to swallow.
Yeah.
But if they get knocked out by the Lakers,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Did you see the Adelsons pulled their casino plans?
Off of the table in Dallas?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I saw that.
So they own that land that used to be Texas Stadium, and they were going to put, basically a new Mavs stadium there, casino, hotels, all that. Now they pulled back the casino.
What do you think
makes sense because it's not legal in Texas. So, like, you're getting ready to build something that hadn't been legalized yet. And I'm just going to say, this is not really a segue, but just there's some minor blip on our run sheet. Like, the Texas legislature is not friendly to vices.
No.
Right now. And they really have never been. But, they're talking about, like, weed. THC is not legal in Texas. But some of the smaller, like, cannabinoids are.
And the hemp.
And they have a bill passed that would remove that as well.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't think gambling's coming up.
Yeah, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the writing on the wall. And it seems like there's a very ultra-conservative movement happening in Texas right now. So maybe they've kind of backed off on that. They see that happening. And that's kind of bad for business, too.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you're going to – it's kind of – there's always, like, that connection to the South. And right now, Oklahoma and Louisiana kind of have that connection. We traveled to Shreveport for a volleyball tournament, and everyone's like, "Oh, make sure you go to the casinos." I'm like, it's not really my jam. I'm just not good at gambling.
I don't like them. That's probably because I go to Vegas too much. They're just old and dirty, dated. I went to
and
Reno.
They didn't seem very, very busy.
I went to Reno once for work. I had to go to Tahoe, which is right there, so I flew into Reno, and I'm like, all right, I want to check out Reno, and it's just old and dirty. Like, so no.
Yeah, I don't
like Oklahoma because you got to pay the Oklahoma tax. If you don't know, when you gamble in Oklahoma,
I only lost money when I went, so I didn't have to pay no tax.
You have to pay an ante. Like every time you bet, that goes straight to the Native American casino.
Really?
Yeah, so you lose that every single time.
I did not know.
So I don't like that either, and it's $1 now. So every time you place a bet, it's $1.
Oh man.
Yeah, for every single bet you place.
Good for them though. You know what I mean?
They're getting theirs.
They are. They're getting,
And if I want to go play craps or blackjack, it is just an hour up the road for me. If I want to go play the dollar tax, I need to go do that.
I haven't. We've been once. We went and saw a concert up there, and we played some slots. But other than that, it was 2 years ago. We went up there and watched a concert. But back on the THC thing, I don't really have a hard feeling about that one way or the other. The only thing that it worries me about is those that really do use it for medicinal purposes.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about your friend down the street that has glaucoma. That's not what I'm talking about. But there are a lot of people who have true medical pain. It does wonders for some people in the, traumatic brain injury field.
Mm-hmm.
Rick Perry is pushing the legislature to do some testing with that, and there's some bills on the floor right now that are supportive of that. It's shown very good strides in helping soldiers who have come back from traumatic brain injuries, or just brain is not checking in right now. What's the word I'm looking for? When a soldier comes PTSD. When a soldier comes back with PTSD, they're showing great strides in that. So that's my only worry. I felt like there were parts of the legislative body this year that was going to be pro that, and I worry that with Abbott and that kind of going against.
They have a policy position against it, so I don't think it's going to go anywhere because they're going to be in leadership, they're going to be in power. So I'm more pro having it. So I'm on that side of the fence. I'm pretty neutral, but I lean towards that way.
I'm right there with you.
And it's just very inconsistent. Like, you're going to allow alcohol, but not that.
Yeah. Well, they allow you to smoke cigarettes. They allow you to smoke cigars.
Yeah.
I mean, and tobacco and alcohol.
It's not as strong as an effect.
Correct.
But alcohol is.
Yeah, 100%. That's kind of the thing that I've always wondered too, is like they're packaging this as a gateway drug, and like, what's the next thing you're going to do? Like, for me, it's always been like this really hard jump to go from THC and marijuana to hardcore black hash or
Yeah.
huffing spray paint.
Yeah.
Right? That seems like a big jump, but I
don't think there's a lot to that.
I think that's just a political ploy. So I did see that there was a great. Here's the thing: if I'm going to be given the death penalty, I think I want it by firing squad.
Are you in that?
I think I'm in that boat.
I don't know.
Did you read there's a guy in South Carolina who chose to be death by firing squad, and his reasoning is that they douse you in water if they give you the electric chair, and he didn't want to feel like he was drowning, and then he didn't want to feel like he couldn't breathe if they gave him the serum. So he just chose to be shot in the heart.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if that's where I'm going to go, I don't know. I choose not to think about that a whole lot.
Yeah.
I
hope it's not something I ever have to consider.
The dark side of my brain, though, goes there every once in a while. You got those dark passengers inside of you.
But I don't get it. I really don't. But I guess I kind of do. I know there's not a lot of trust on the lethal injection side of things, right? And they numb you at first. So even if you do feel everything after that, nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
And you don't, so I could see that being a thing. And then, I would definitely rather be shot than the electric chair.
Yeah. Will they put that sponge on top of your head to make sure that your whole body gets electrocuted?
Yeah.
That seems awful.
That seems very awful. I mean, none of them seem great. Honestly,
I guess it depends on what you did.
Honestly,
did you deserve that?
I think probably if I could pick any of them, I'm going guillotine.
I was about to say that, but I didn't know if you wanted to go
Make
that
sure
dark.
It's good and sharp.
Yeah. I don't want to be the 10,000th person, though, at the French Revolution getting my head chopped off.
Yeah.
We might have to edit this out. That one might not be able to go on YouTube. But, I mean, for real, though.
We're getting flagged.
Yeah. I think that would be an interesting... I don't know. I don't know. So, where do you want to go first? By the way, it's great to be back.
It is.
It's great to be back.
We took a week off. We did 20 episodes and quit. Not really. We just went on spring break.
Yeah, it was great. It's great to be back.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed this. But the cigar I'm smoking tonight is a Gurkha.
That's what you had last time.
No, this is the first time I smoked a Gurkha on the episode. We've talked about it.
We talked about
Gurkhas, and I actually found one
because they have the double wrap.
Yes,
that's what it was.
And then but this one is just this one. I have two of them with me tonight: the Gurkha Ghost and then the Gurkha Especial, Connecticut. And then I also have another one here because this may be a two cigars night. My father's house, I believe, is what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I have what I was told is a Cuban. Guy who gave it to me, and he did not have humidor. I mean, the thing is dry. It's good. It's good. I like it, but it is pretty dry. So, how far gone can a cigar be where you can put it in a humidor and get some humidity back?
It has to be in there a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say at least a week, at minimum a week. Like the local shop here.
This one has been because I got it on the 14th.
Consistently though, humid.
Yes.
Humidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd have to put it in there a long time.
I just pulled it out and it's still pretty
Was it
dry.
in cellophane?
It was.
Months then, maybe even years.
Yeah, I don't know.
I judge. So I went to a new cigar lounge in in Shreveport. Something that's never happened to me before. I was in there. First off, I did not like the collection. It was very obvious that the cigars were catered to the people that smoke in that area, which is fine. That's perfectly fine.
A lot of Black and Milds.
No, a lot of flavored cigars though, like the acids.
A lot
and
of newbies.
Yes. No, very, very few. A lot of Gurkhas, but those are so expensive. Like you're talking like and I was not in an expensive part of town. And lots of $30, $40, $50 cigars. And I'm like, I'm just not spending $40, $50. I've had those before and they're just not that great. I think this one was like $15. The other Gurkha I got was about 20. So it wasn't too bad. I mean, this is a great cigar. It's a great cigar. But the guy stood there and watched me while I was shopping. Like kept the humidor door open. And it was just a weird, like I just didn't feel welcome.
Yeah.
And that's never happened to me. Never happened to me. I
think a lot of times the cigar shops are very much like locals. Like if you walk into a cigar shop and you've never been there before, it's kind of like when the jukebox stops and everybody turns around and looks at you.
I was definitely being stared at.
There's definitely that kind of feel from one. But Yeah, that's a little much holding the humidor.
Yeah, holding the humidor open like you're drying the cigars out. If you want to come and talk to me, just step inside the humidor and talk. Or if you like just checking me out, making sure I'm not going to steal your cigars, that's fine. But
I mean, all of them have cameras all over them.
Yeah,
because
it was
they're
just
very small and easy to steal. So
very,
every cigar shop I've been into has cameras everywhere.
Well, and there's windows usually, so they can see in and out.
Wide open. Yeah,
yeah. It was just a very unwelcoming. I'll never like, even if like it was called MA Cigars.
Yeah,
and I just didn't feel welcome, and like that's never been the vibe that I've ever gotten in any cigar lounge I've ever been to. And this is not like your mom. This is like a mom and pop's style place. Kind of like kind of like in Fuego.
Yeah.
There's a couple of them in this area.
Yeah.
And I've always felt welcome in any of those that I've ever gone to.
Right. I'm not in that one enough for people to recognize me. I mean, until I give them my phone number and get my points.
Yeah.
But, but they still are, as I say, very friendly, very welcoming. But what's not friendly is liberal Democrats firebombing a clean energy vehicle provider.
I just don't understand that.
2025. Like, I thought 2020 was weird. 2025 has been weird.
Okay, so I kind of want to jump down this hole. Okay, because during the BLM movement, and the style of protest, if we want to call it that, mostly peaceful protests. I say that with tongue in cheek. I never understood, like, if you're going to stand up for a cause, then stand up for the cause.
Yes.
Right? I get it. Okay. However, if you've been pushing green movement and save the environment and moving things towards America for the last 8 years, essentially, right? Why in the world would you go after an American-made, clean vehicle?
Yeah.
All because Elon is trying to clean up the waste? Is that, if that's genuinely the reason why? I don't understand.
I think it has less to do with what he's actually doing in Doge and that he's connected with Trump. Like, I think it's because anything, like, this is what I've said before, and here's the thing, like, we started this podcast trying to be so centered, like, seeing things from both sides, but like, Democrats, you are giving me nothing.
Oh, 100%.
You're given nothing to be able to like see things from your point of view, because it's like you don't have principles. Like, this is a clean energy provider. Like 2-3 years ago, you loved this. You wanted everyone. In fact, Biden tried to make it a requirement in so many years for everyone to have to drive an electric vehicle. Like, that was the push. And yet now, because it's connected to Trump, now we're defacing them and we're vandalizing them and blowing up Tesla dealerships and doing firebombing, because you don't actually stand for clean energy. Like, that's what, like, as a Democrat, like, either you have to come to terms with, you either don't actually stand with clean energy and you're just a hypocrite and a liar, or if you're a Democrat voter, those people you're voting for don't actually stand for that. They stand for staying in power, and right now that means we don't like Tesla. Like, it's ridiculous.
And I don't understand, like, if you catch that, one of the big things about Tesla that's been so is how durable they can be in an accident, that they don't particularly catch on fire. But if you catch a battery on fire, the amount of toxins that's going out into the air is unbelievable. That's why they want you to recycle your car batteries, so that they can dispose of them properly. Like, those things are in hazardous trucks whenever they move them from place to place. Why in the world would you think it's okay to catch it on fire and like ruin these people's lives? And then, like, you got Tim Waltz out here trying to think it's hilarious that Tesla stock is going down. He opens up his app and sees that Tesla stock's going down. He chuckles to himself. Well, then he says it in front of 1,000 people. Yeah. And then is like, oh, by the way, the Minnesota, gosh dang it, the Minnesota pension, the government pensions are attached to Tesla. Yeah. And so every time, of course, like, so now you're basically saying your own people are being harmed by the fact that you think it's hilarious.
Because they don't actually stand for that. Like, they don't stand for anything solid. Bill Maher is meeting with Trump, and he's getting flack for taking the meeting with Trump. And he said, listen, you can hate Trump, whatever you want, but I don't hate half of America that voted for him, And it's always an honor to get to meet with the president of the United States.
Yes, 100%.
Which, honestly, I wish the Philadelphia Eagles would understand. Like, it is always an honor to get to meet with the president of the United States. And it's like, no, they can't because they just hate him. But Bill Maher, who is no conservative,
No, he's
extreme
He's
liberal, is the only one of the only ones right now talking sense. Like, he is always.
Well, I would say Jon Stewart is too.
Yes, there are some out there, but those two really are the only ones in a large crowd who are actually saying, "Listen, like, you still don't get it. Like, you're not standing for anything. You're just standing against something."
Yeah.
And that's not a platform. You can't run on that.
Well, and it just goes into
they tried and they lost.
the way their voting record is.
It's getting better.
Okay.
I don't know why, but it's getting better.
But my point is this also goes back into something that happened this past week with AOC and Bernie Sanders having their what do they call it? I put it on the run sheet, opposition to oligarchy. Like, bro, y'all are doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
You're running out this 82-year-old. I think he's 82. So if he is able to run for president, he will be 86. That means that he would be 91 when the presidency is over. What are you doing? What are you doing? And like, this isn't 2016. I still think that the Democrats. I saw a TikToker the other day talking about how the Democrats stole the election from Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
I've been very public about this. I haven't hidden this. I'm pretty centrist. Like, being in the profession that I'm in and being my life experience puts me kind of in the middle of the road, center right most of the time. And like, I really could get on board with a lot of what Bernie was saying. Like, I really do think that we need to have social programs. I really do think that we need some of the things that he was talking about.
Yeah.
At the time, he's talking about truck drivers are going to be out of a job, and he's meeting with Tesla and all these electric car companies who are going to put over-the-road truck drivers out of business because they're going to be able to put in automated trucks. And so he was talking about like a national, like, self-pay type situation, which again, I can get on board with in most cases. I don't think we're on the same spectrum in that area, by the way, you and I, which is fine. That's fine. But I think that if you roll him out in 2028 and you roll out Bernie Sanders as the presidential candidate and AOC, it doesn't matter who the Republicans run. It will be a landslide victory.
Yeah.
And there's still, like, Gavin Newsom is trying to come out, but then he made, again, in the Charlie Kirk interview, he was like, I never understood Latina X. Like, he comes out and he lies right to Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
Well, then what does CNN and Fox News and even ABC, MSNBC runs out all these speeches that he's given where he's saying Latin X over and over and over. And I just keep thinking to myself, like, you guys are just banging your heads on the wall. Because you're not. Did you forget that everything has been recorded for the last 10 years? Like, social media has been prevalent since, I think you and I have had this discussion on here, since 2010, I think is when you can definitely say social media had a huge influence on all of our lives.
Especially by 2016.
Especially by 2016. And everything is recorded.
Yes.
Everything. And did you forget that you said that?
Yeah.
Or have you just been lying this whole time, that you've been caught up in your lies so often that you can't tell the truth anymore because you don't even know where the truth stands?
Right. That's the thing. Like, they don't stand for anything. They stand against Trump. And so, like, that brings us to the other thing that happened last week. So while we didn't record over spring break, but 127 Democrats voted against a one-page bill. The only thing, like this isn't a bunch of pork and other stuff in this bill. It is literally on one piece of paper that just takes the statute of limitations to investigate COVID fraud out another 5 years. That's it. So all we're going to do is go investigate people who got the COVID loans or COVID relief and lied. Like, it even excludes like people who made a good faith effort. Like, if you just really thought you qualified and your business did and you submitted the forms, that's not what those fraud statutes come after. I mean, I've read them because it was heavily involved for banks, because banks actually made all those loans. They're just be guaranteed by the government. So, like, they're not. it comes out of people who willingly and knowingly committed fraud for those, which honestly is good. People on both sides of the political spectrum did that. And all this one-page bill did is say, hey, we're going to extend the statute of limitations is running out for us to go after these fraudsters. We're going to extend that out another 5 years to give us time to go after them. And 127 Democrats said, nope, it's a Trump bill. I'm voting against it.
If they continue to do this, I don't know what the next move is.
They've got to get their house in order quickly. Like you think about, like I know it's only March of 2025, but things move so fast. Like the presidential election is really a constant campaign, especially by the midterms, which is just next year. Like you think about how things are going to look 1 year from now, like as far as midterm running goes. And then you're going to start having presidential frontrunners come to the field as soon as the midterms happen. We're just over a year out from presidential frontrunners coming out for the 2028 election. And they've got nobody.
It really concerns me in this fact. It concerns me because I really believe that you need two viable candidates. Even if I don't agree with the one side, you have to have some sort of a competition to where, okay, I can see where this side is, I can see where that side is. But it can't be like when they rolled out Biden, like, I can't vote for this guy. And then they tried everything they could to get rid of Trump, literally and figuratively.
Yes.
And that's not good for the country. It's not good for the country. And I think that they've got to do something. They got to do something.
They don't have anybody.
No.
They have no one keyed up.
And I'm worried. I'm worried about that in the sense of the health of the country. Does that make sense?
I think what's going to happen is you're going to continue to see some people kind of start to get it, which I think, honestly, say what you will about like his gaffes and cover-ups, but Gavin Newsom is one of these people who's like, we've got to change something. I'm going to start this podcast and only interview conservatives. Like you got to,
but he doesn't get it though, Clint. He doesn't. You can't sit there and lie to the
Right.
most prevalent Republican conservative. And Charlie Kirk is way more conservative than me.
Yeah.
He's way more conservative than me.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I dislike the man. That doesn't mean that I don't agree with some things that he says and disagree with some things that he says. That's okay. But you can't just sit and lie, bald-faced lie to the man.
Right.
Like, I'm not going to dive deep into it, but like there was like 15 lies that he did.
Yeah. And does he come around and say, hey, we missed it on this? And he did say the whole, requiring everyone to not be able to go to restaurants, and then he's sitting there unmasked with a bunch of people eating in a restaurant. He did say that was a mistake. Like, does he come around? But here's what's going to happen. Here's what I mean. Even if some do come around, like, and you have some that listen to what Bill Maher is saying and Jon Stewart is saying and say, hey, okay, we've got to change our approach. What's going to happen, and this is my crystal ball prediction, is by the time you get to where that starts getting hashed out, all of the others who are still in this camp of the way they did it with Kamala Harris and Biden, they're going to eat each other alive. Like the Democratic Party is not going to come to a consensus of we're going to change our approach or we're going to keep our approach of what we had. There are too many people who still believe what they did in the 2024 election was the way to win and are still going down that path right now on the Democratic Party. So what you're going to have is those people who are still believers and still don't see a problem with what they did with bringing in Biden, keeping him there too long, and then trying to replace him with VP Harris. Those people are going to eat the other ones alive who are coming down saying, guys, we've got to do something different. Normally, when you lose that badly, they completely change. Like all the leadership's out, everybody's gone, and they just say, hey, we totally lost and we've got to make a change and we've got to do something different. And they're not doing that this time.
Well, and I really thought that...
And I'm not trying, like, I sound like I'm advocating, like, I need these guys to get it figured out. I don't.
Well, I kind of am. Like, I am, because I really believe that if we're going to have... You have to have a healthy debate.
I get the good-spirited debate argument.
And that's where I'm at. Like, I'm not saying that
But
I want the Democrat...
like them losing with 100% chance more than I like having, I don't know.
I just like a healthy debate.
It is important.
It's very, very important.
Because the conservative side, they don't get everything right either.
No.
And they need someone challenging that.
No.
And that makes it better. Like, even if, I like my ideas. Right?
Yes, me too.
And everyone likes their ideas. Everyone can say, hey, I like my own ideas. are your ideas not better when someone who disagrees with you is challenging you and making you actually formulate and talk out why
Yes.
you feel that way?
Part of the reason I love this podcast is because you and part of the reason I love what we're doing, and honestly, I want people to listen because that helps us, and maybe we can do this full time one time at some point in 10 years. But I feel like you and I can have these conversations, and there are more people who are like you and I than are even as conservative as what Trump is out there. And and you and I think very differently, right? You look at things in a business perspective, and I look at things in numbers, and at least that's the vibe that we've gotten from each other so far. And I look at things more from a social perspective, and you teach me things every single week that we do this.
Same, yeah.
And so I'm trying to, but if we can't have a conversation, like if the two Democratic and Republican Party cannot form their own ideas and then push them out to the public, you're just going to continue to have those far outside people, that 10% of the curve, continue to yell at each other.
Yeah.
And like, that's not healthy either. I don't know if that point made sense,
It
but
does
it's like,
make sense. And I was just thinking about that because I was thinking about is there any bright spot? Is there any shining light that we have seen since Trump was inaugurated?
that was a good scar, by the way.
Where they've come together, and the only thing I can think of is Rubio's confirmation vote, 99-0, because there were only 99 senators at that time,
Right.
because J.D. Vance, and it's like, you've seen what he said on Ukraine,
Right.
like he's definitely supporting Trump and his vision, his foreign policy as Secretary of State, and he got 99 votes in the Senate to confirm him. Like, that makes sense to me. Like, I think that was a good move. Like, he's definitely qualified to be Secretary of State. He should have gotten 99-0 on his confirmation vote. But like, where is that whenever common sense things come down? You know,
Like, I understood
support.
I understood the disagreement with Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
And Kash Patel.
Yeah.
I understood that. Where I struggled, though, was with Tulsi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're still propping her up as a Russian sympathizer. Like, that's been proven not to be true.
And it's such an old argument.
And so why was that not 99-0?
Yeah.
That's where, like, I see your point. Like, I understand what you're saying, but then, like, it's totally opposite in other areas. And like, that's where we don't know the inner workings of what's happening in that body. And that's where I get like, ugh. I get government fatigue. That's what I call it. Because it's like, I can't understand what you're saying because I don't see that entire picture. I don't understand I don't see the inner workings of what you guys are discussing on a regular basis. And no one will. And I really thought that Fetterman would come out and be more, our boy Fetterman. Did you see he went on The View?
No.
He went on The View, yeah.
I would have missed that.
It was the middle of last week, I think, or maybe it was the week before, and I just caught some clips of it. I mean, he's a common sense guy. Like, I still don't like that he wears hoodies in the House of Congress.
Bill Maher said that he will not be dressing like Zelensky whenever he goes to the White House. You know, he is a stand-up comedian, by the way. Like, we forget that because he's so political, but he's a stand-up. So.
Yeah, I just it just doesn't. I was hoping that Fetterman and maybe Jeffries would come forward and kind of step into that leadership role more than what they have. But I still think that Fetterman's too middle of the road for even like an AOC and a Sanders.
Don't freak out about the economy just yet. Stock market's been pretty volatile last couple of weeks, and so that is obviously getting a lot of pushback. They don't like the tariffs, which, again, 2025 is an odd year because normally conservatives, Republicans would be against tariffs and liberal Democrats would be for tariffs. Back when things were the way they were, now they're different, and that's not across the board. You can find people on both sides of the camp in both camps. But
are we going to go long tonight? Because do you want to go a little longer than normal? Because I'm going to light another cigar if we are.
Do it.
Okay.
We took a week off. We got to give a double. The stock market in itself is a barometer of just how people are feeling about how sure the future is. If everyone feels like, no, this thing's going to keep going and it's just going to be awesome and growth is going to be great, then the stock market's up. If people are like, I don't know, there are some different things going on out there. So the stock market being volatile really says one thing, and that is there is uncertainty in how economic policy is going to affect the future capital growth of the country. And I think that makes sense. Like a heavy push to tariffs, especially with huge trading partners like China, Mexico, and Canada, that has not been tested, the way it's being tested now. So because it has not been tested the way it's being tested now, there's volatility in the market. But inflation did go up less than expected in February. We got those numbers just right as we were breaking for spring break. Only went up 2.8% as opposed to 3% in January. And honestly, anywhere where inflation is between 2 and 3% is pretty normal.
Well, I was going to ask you about that. Like the Treasury numbers were down. I don't know, that link that I sent you,
Yes.
that's in the run sheet. It talks about the key factors of the Treasury.
Pull that up.
And the 30-year Treasury was down 4.5%. The 10-year is down 4.2%. The 5 is 4.0, and then the 2-year yield is up 3%. So I was curious, like, what does that have to do with actual inflationary numbers? Like, does that harm it? It's in the middle of that webpage.
I can't still find where it's talking about it, but essentially this is the thing. When inflation's higher, the value of the treasury bills goes down.
Okay.
Because, so say you go out and you buy a treasury bill, which is basically the government's debt. We talk about all the debt the government has. It's in these treasury bills that you can go, a person can buy, countries can buy, businesses, whatever, as an investment on the debt. So say that treasury bill is going to have a yield of 5%, but inflation is 7%. So your purchasing money of power is going to go down as the years go on and as the treasury bill gets closer to its maturity. The net loss there is 2%. So when that T-bill matures, your purchasing power has gone down by 7% and you've only earned back 5%. So that makes T-bills less attractive in higher inflation.
Does that promote inflation or deflation? By the way, cigar number 2 is a Gurkha Ghost.
2 Gurkha Night.
2 Gurkha Night. It's not as strong. I don't feel like it's as strong as the Olivier.
What was your question again?
Do the treasury numbers cause inflation to go up or go down? If it's a higher yield or a negative yield, does it go up or does it go down? Inflation.
The higher the treasury yield, the lower the inflation.
Okay. So we want that number to go down.
Generally. It's really 2 different things. But in general, that's the inverse relationship.
So I was also looking for, that's kind of jumping into the next thing about the amount of companies that are investing in the United States.
You got another trillion today?
Yeah, I saw that. That's what I was trying to pull up, but it's a dadgum Wall Street Journal article.
Gotta pay.
And I got to pay for it. So where's the free version of it? So far, the list of people is Apple, CMA, Hyundai, Johnson & Johnson, OpenAI, TSMC,
which is a Taiwan semiconductor.
Yeah. So all of these corporations are starting to pledge billions, if not trillions of dollars. I saw the EAU.
That's what the UAE.
The UAE.
Yeah,
sorry, my dyslexia got the best of me.
What
What was it, 1.6 trillion or 1.3 trillion, something like that?
Yeah, it was
and
close to $1.5 trillion of investment over the next 10 years.
And how does a Democrat look at that and say, okay, how is this is bad for the country?
Well, I know what they say. They're saying, what is Trump promising and giving away to get that investment?
Okay.
That's going to be their argument, right? But honestly, it's just when you see a business climate that is going well, you want to put your money over there. Like it's like anything else. Like if you, do you teach the stock market?
No, that's economics.
Nah. So essentially, we think of the stock market as this big old thing, but to be honest, if you just find any old business and they're doing well, you say, hey man, let me invest some money in your business. Let me give you an injection of capital. You can go buy another piece of equipment or whatever you're going to buy. and then I'm going to earn a return on that on your profits
Okay.
on my investment. Like that's essentially what a stock certificate is. Whenever you buy stock in GM or any large company, you could do the same thing with a small company. You just go privately invest. But so when people invest their money in it, is because they expect a return on their money. UAE has got a lot of oil. They got a lot of cash, so they have a lot of money to invest, and they could set their cash in their vaults, earning nothing. They could put it in the financial system and earn a small rate of return, or they could invest in a company and potentially earn a large rate of return. So
I just don't understand. No, pause. Let me rephrase that. I struggle to wrap my brain around why people think that's a bad thing.
because Trump's doing
Because
it.
Trump's doing it.
That's it. I mean, they don't stand for anything, right? You can't even, like, that's what the one thing that Bill Maher says all the time is like, we are all in this together. This is our country now. You may not like that he won. You may not like him. You can hate him, but this is our country. And so when good things happen to our country, that's another talk show host. I can't think of the guy's name. Just see his face, but he says often, he's like, even for you Democrats that voted against Trump, your life's actually going to get better.
Yeah,
you know?
and like it seems like, here we go. I found it. It seems like I know the big thing when we stopped the last episode was eggs, right? We just bought eggs the other day, and it seems to be back to normal, right? The price of gas down incredibly since the election. I think I paid $2.27.
I know, and I had this guy I used to work with posted this humongous gas price the other. It was like a $4 and something gas price, and he was like,
LW?
"No, you don't know him."
Okay.
But yeah, that one's definitely a Democrat. But then posted this, and I was like, "Hey, how is this fixing the economy?" I'm like, "I don't know where you sell that gas price, man, but I'm seeing like a low, 220s, which honestly,
this guy was in California. He was 664.
This guy wasn't. This guy's in Dallas.
Jeez, that. Then you're in the wrong side of Dallas.
Either that or that's the premium price or something. I mean, I put the no ethanol gas in my boat because you're supposed to, and that stuff's expensive, but that might have been the price he was looking at.
I don't know. I've been very impressed with all of the different things, and this still isn't the list. I'm dadgummit. It's still not the list I'm looking for, but it was a list of what we've kind of already discussed of it. Like, okay, so here's the UAE, over 10 years, 1.4 trillion. Johnson & Johnson announced $55 billion. I just think that Apple, $500 billion. All these chip makers are now coming over and saying that, are saying the same thing. It just seems like right now Trump is doing everything he can with all the promises that he made in his campaign. Mm-hmm. And it's been a while since we've had that.
Mm-hmm.
But those campaign promises are huge, and that's something that the Republicans have not had in quite some time. So we want to hop down the closing of the DOE.
Yeah.
All right. So I kind of have probably not the opinion that you would think of as an educator. Like, I don't have a problem with them closing the Department of Education. Okay. So there's a couple of things in my experience in dealing with things in education. Okay, so first off, the biggest two talking points have been RFK is going to take over the special education department. Okay, so the department that he's over is what again?
Health and Human Services.
So Health and Human Services falls under students who are special education.
Yeah.
Okay. The other big one was student loans. Who's going to take over that? Mm-hmm. So I text you, and you teach me things all the time. And you were like, I was texting you about how the Small Business Administration was going to take over that. And you were like, yeah, that makes sense because they handle small business loans. Mm-hmm. I'm like, dang, hadn't thought about that.
They handle the administration of it.
Yeah.
And again, those loans are still made by banks.
But so are most student loans.
Right.
Now, there are some that are not, and they're still run by the government, and the Small Business Administration is going to continue to manage those. So then the other thing that the liberals are scared about is like who's going to take over and manage those people who have who have like for example, a public service loan forgiveness, right? If you're a public servant, the government owns your loan, right? That's the category that I fall under in my student loans. Okay. It changes every time the administration changes. Okay. So when we applied for student loan forgiveness, you have to jump through so many hoops, like so many. And the problem is, and not necessarily a problem, we've been blessed and have been able to stay on top of ours. But the problem is you never know where that hoop is. So as you're going through this process of loan forgiveness or trying to figure out like who you're supposed to even pay your loan payment to, if they're owned by, right now everything is owned by Mohila, which is a Missouri company. So what is going to be the next step? So I've been seeing like these people post on TikTok and X and Facebook. Well, my payment went from $500 to $5,000. Well, how much student loan debt do you have? Like if you have $500,000 or $1 million of student loan debt, we have another issue that we need to discuss because you have a problem, right? And second off, who's also writing and offering you those loans?
Yeah.
So there's another issue there. But if you have $100,000 of student loan debt, which is not uncommon, folks, that's not uncommon. That is still going to be serviced if you're a public servant by the Small Business Administration through the federal government. So then it gets me back to like, okay, so then what is the role of the Department of Education? Like, what has been their job over the last couple of years? So it got me thinking like, okay, when did the Department of Education first come about? Which we've discussed this before. But then it got me thinking like, okay, when did it really start to take off? And it comes back to No Child Left Behind through a president of George W. Bush who ran on an education campaign, and then very, very quickly became a wartime president. So again, it sent me down another rabbit hole of like, okay, how does this affect me, and how is this going to help me, hurt my students, affect in any way? Okay. So I did some research this week on kind of like what and how the No Child Left Behind Act works. So prior to that, 1970, 70% of high school students that attended higher education graduated with a high school diploma. I don't even know how, I couldn't find a reputable source, but most show that now in 2024, 95% of high school students graduate high school with a high school diploma. That's huge growth, right? Now, the problem is the amount of bureaucracy that goes into it and the amount of spending that goes into it because of No Child Left Behind. The purpose of it was to try to help and find schools that were not servicing low income and special needs schools or students, to try to bring balance back to that. We've talked about this before with the amount of people and the amount of jobs that are going to non-teachers. So the higher administrative cost. Okay. I'm not saying the districts that I have been experienced with, those jobs, although sometimes they're not necessary, I would say 98% of those people are fully necessary. They're needed because you have to keep track of so much data.
Yeah.
Okay. And you're not asking data collection experts to do this job, right? Most of the time it requires an administrative certification, which is a principal, or some sort of other certification that is not a degree in economics or a degree in data collection.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yep.
And so these jobs are being filled with people who are doing the best that they can with the situation that they've been given. And you have to remember too, so a school is given a report card. I looked at it today and I counted over 500 data points for one school per district. Does that make sense? So the district I currently work at, let's say there's more than this, but let's say there's 4 just to make my math easy. That's over 2,000 data points that have to be collected every single semester. So 4,000 data collection points per year that have to be submitted. And if one of those is incorrect, it gets kicked back. And they keep adding to that. So what's the natural progression is they're going to put bodies to make sure that all those T's are crossed and all those I's are dotted, because you don't want a needs improvement campus. Like you don't want that. So the bureaucracy that's been added is not all the district's fault. It has to do with the fact that they've had to collect a ton of data. You don't want your teachers to have to do that because they should be focused on teaching the kids. You don't want your administration in the schools to have to do that, your campus administration. So the natural progression is to add people at the bureaucracy level. So what do you expect them to do? So I hope that with the removal of parts of this and pushing it back to the states, and several of the Senate bills and House bills in the state of Texas right now are removing some of this bureaucracy and putting it in different areas, which it would be great. But the problem is how do you now shrink it? It's the same issue we're having with the federal government. So now you're going to have people who have been doing this job now since 2001 is when No Child Left Behind became law. And I don't see how you can just pull the rug out from underneath this.
Yeah.
It's going to be baby steps.
Yeah. You showed that, you posted that on our socials, the picture of over the years, the increase in, basically school employees as compared to student level. And as you see student level rise, you see teachers rise right along with it.
Correct.
But then you see this sharp increase
in
administration.
But that has a direct correlation with No Child Left Behind.
Has a direct correlation to government regulation.
Correct.
It's the same way with the banks.
Correct.
Like, essentially, banks are heavily regulated, have to hire staff to work in the bank just to keep up with government regulation.
And the problem is, Clint, I don't know how you fix it. Like, how do you?
Well, I mean, Trump shut down the CFPB, which is huge. There's a lot of rules in the CFPB and a lot of rule making that happens at the CFPB.
Refresh me of the
Consumer
acronym.
Finance Protection Bureau.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, came out of Dodd-Frank from Obama after the housing crisis of 2008, and Dodd-Frank Act that was passed after that, and a new government agency in addition to all of the other government regulators that were already in place that passed new rules, and a lot of those rules just got stopped and repealed. And like there was a big one, not going to bore you with the details of the weeds, that was about to take effect June 1 of this year, of 2025.
I'm kind of interested. What is it?
It's called 1071, and it was a reporting. One of the metrics of it, we talked about it before, was that you had to collect sexual orientation information on loan applications.
That's right. Okay, I remember us talking about that.
That's just one part of it. But like you have to hire staff to then basically work in your compliance department to keep up with that and to keep track of if your lending people are doing what they're supposed to be doing. And you have to hire people like me to come in and check you on that before the regulators get there.
Right.
Because I do consulting, right? I help them get ready for the regulators to come in. I do a lot of other things too to help them get ready for. So thankfully, like I'm not out of a job but consulting's taking a big hit, and we talk about that on another podcast because I do want to talk about that at some point. And so you are hiring staff, just like schools are hiring staff, just to keep up with government regulation, just to track data, just to send in to make sure you're complying with all of these things that honestly probably aren't working that great.
Yeah, I agree. And like too, like I see like the jokes, especially around this time where like the interviewers are going around to spring breakers and asking them simple questions.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let me explain. I just want to kind of give a glimpse into a classroom for just a moment. I know a lot of people that listen to this are educators, so you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that are not, let me give you a glimpse. So when we were in school, you had to know dates. Mm-hmm. So for example, you knew 1776, the Declaration of Independence, America got its independence. Okay. Easy fact-based learning. Yeah. Same with math, right? 4 times 4 is 16. You had to learn the fact table. Okay. Now, instead of just having to know that, they need to understand why Thomas Jefferson wrote the Declaration of Independence. Mm-hmm. Now, great. That's probably something that should be taught to your higher level kids who are reading above grade level. in your AP, in your honors classes. Those are the classes where it's at. The general ed classroom, they just need to know the facts because most of them don't care. I shouldn't have to teach them some of the things that we have to teach them. And it's not that it's bad. It's not. It's not. It should be taught. And we should want our kids to learn this. But the kid who's just there to get his diploma does not need this level of learning.
Yeah.
They just need the facts. Can they tell me where North and South America are on a map?
Yeah.
Do they know how North America got to where it is or how it became what it is today? Can they tell me what 4 + 4 is?
Yeah.
And that's part of this bureaucracy of the state testing and all that stuff, some of which is they're trying to do away with.
Yeah.
But my worry is that they're going to continue to push that bureaucracy further and further up the ladder and to make it even more and more regulatory, which I don't agree with. And I wonder if they do away with state testing. This is just a thought off the top of my head. How are they gonna give people their kudos, or how are they gonna tell this teacher is a master teacher if we do away with all that stuff? I know they'll say, "Oh, well, it'll be at the local level." Well, then you can cheat.
Yeah.
Then you can cheat. If it's not a complete blind test, then you can cheat, and then you're gonna see even more issues come about.
Yeah. I don't know.
I know that's out of your wheelhouse. I get that.
I do like it better at the local level because, like I said before,
I do too.
When we talked about this, the people who decide my promotions, raises, and things like that are people I see actually in the office.
Yeah.
And they see me do my job, and they talk to the people who work with me. We're there, and so I like that. I like things getting pushed to more local.
I just think that the amount of bureaucracy on all levels of government, this just doesn't have to do with education. It just blows my mind that we've gotten to the point to where everything is so regulated.
Yeah.
And not in a good or bad way per se.
And it's there because of money.
Yeah.
Congress is not going, or the state legislature is not going to give money to a cause without saying, well, we got to be sure and check and make sure they're doing it right. And so that's their whole thing. Which
is part of the whole USAID problem.
Right. Instead of just saying, no, we're going to support this with funding. It's taxpayer dollars anyway. We're going to take taxpayer dollars and we're going to fund education with it. And then we're going to let the people who are running those local districts determine that it's being spent appropriately.
Yeah. And it's just interesting to watch as it's all unfolding, and how that, not just in education, but also at the federal level, as we start to squeeze, as DOJ starts to squeeze, every single pocketbook, literally and figuratively, as they start to squeeze those things and the regulations, and like, okay, why are we doing this? For what is the purpose of this? And then you have to prove why you're doing it, which I don't have a problem with, but it's like, it's going to be interesting to see who squeals.
Oh yeah.
And they're squealing, and that's part of what we're seeing at all levels of government.
It has to do with money and power. I mean,
do you have a problem with
nothing new.
Insider trading? And we haven't really talked about this, but I did see that, I don't remember who it was. Pam Bondi, I think, is who it was. It may have been someone else. I won't say it was Pam Bondi, but it was one of those cabinet level people talked about insider trading with a Nancy Pelosi type of group. Do you have a problem with that?
Yeah.
What's your solution?
You can't trade. We talked about this once before. I can't trade certain stocks because I work for the accounting firm that audits those companies.
So I saw a post on
It's just
X.
part of it. Like, it's not like that you can't do certain things. Like, you can't bet on baseball and play in baseball, right? So if you play Major League Baseball, you're not allowed to bet on baseball. If you work for an accounting firm that audits a company, you're not allowed to own stock in that company. And if you're a United States congressman or senator, you're not allowed to have those trades.
I saw a post on X that said that the government, federal government employee, hold on, let me find it because I saved it. Again, here I go again, trying to find. Okay, that the president should have a $20 million a year salary. The senators should make $5 million, and members of the Congress of House of Representatives should make $2 million. And in return, they should be subject to all insider trading laws and not allowed to be lobbyists for 10 years after leaving office. Would that remove the temptation?
Why are you going to pay them that much?
That's what I'm saying.
To
Like,
take away, they're not making that much. Well, maybe they are.
Well, I mean, have you seen Nancy Pelosi's portfolio?
It's not going to take away the temptation.
Yeah, but I think that it was a question that was posed just as a conversation piece, I believe. I don't think that seems like a lot of money.
Here's a fix to it: term limits. Like, if you're going to be a senator for your entire life, then yeah, never getting to trade in the stock market could be an issue. But if you're going to work 2 terms for 12 years and then go out and back to your business or back to your job, then it's not a problem because then you can trade again.
Yeah.
So
I'm surprised that we haven't seen more talk about that.
It's a 2-pronged thing. Just put in term limits, and then you can have restrictions against all trading.
Yeah, that's a valid point.
That's my solution.
It's a pretty good solution. I think I agree with that. It was more of a point of reference. I was trying to see if there was anything else that I missed.
No.
Did you, the Ukraine deal, have you have any hard takes on that?
No, I mean, Trump won. Got so far with the mineral rights deal, right?
Yeah.
How he wanted to do the protections for Ukraine. It's not done yet. We'll see. I mean, it's kind of one of those things where I don't want to say too much or have too hard of an opinion about it because it looks like it's possibly moving in the right direction. But this is going to be one of those things that's going to be decided relatively soon, and politics speaking. But then we'll have to see 2 years from now, does Putin invade Ukraine again or another country? Like, it's one of those things where even if the deal goes through and gets decided, that doesn't mean it's settled.
Yeah. Well, and I also noticed that Putin's been very, very quiet.
Yes.
All right. Lastly, we'll close with this great post I saw on X as well. Hungary announces that mothers with 1 child will be exempt from paying income tax until they turn 30. So if you have children under the age of 30, if you have more than 1 child, you never have to pay income tax again. Solution to the population problem?
So many thoughts. Do they have a population problem?
Hungary does, yes.
I'm lost. Okay. So, yeah. So it's encouraging good behavior, which tax does all the time. That's why there's an adoption tax credit, because they want you to adopt.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's why there is essentially, there's a lot of tax. I mean, you can go back to the clean energy ones. A lot of people around here are taking advantage of the solar tax credit.
Boy, I feel sorry for those people that have them solar panels on their house right now.
It's a dumb idea.
Don't do it, friends. If you have a guy walking by your house,
if somebody has to sell you something door to door, it's not worth it. Generally,
we had a mutual friend that sold vacuum cleaners for a short period of time.
Yeah,
what are those vacuum cleaners called again?
If you got to do it that way, it's Kirby's.
Oh yeah, they do the Kirby.
Somebody's got to come to your door to sell you something in 2025. It's a scam. Don't do it.
The Kirby, what do they call it? The Kirby wipe, where they wipe your feet and you wipe your feet and you just walk in.
Yeah, whether it's Kirby vacuum cleaners, knives, solar panels, it's all a scam.
Encyclopedias.
Oh man, that business really tanked. There was not a lot of good foresight and vision on the encyclopedia salesman.
No, I just happened to watch that episode of Friends the other day. Where
somebody's just today made their last payment on their Encyclopedia Britannica.
Boy, they sold those things. They were expensive too. Yeah. Fortunately, I was not old enough to remember that. But
oh my gosh,
in the Friends episode, it was $50 a book.
Yeah, I remember my parents got a set. It was a big day for us. That was pre-internet.
A big day in the
and no one foresaw what the internet was going to be and the level of information you're going to be at now with, large language learning models and AI and asking questions, and it searches the whole internet and just tells you.
Yeah.
Like nobody saw what was going to happen there. But yeah, if anybody's selling anything door to door, don't buy it. So yeah, tax policy in Hungary will reward good behavior and Yeah, I mean, that's a big deal. You have 2 kids before 30 and you never pay taxes again.
Income tax. I don't know.
Income tax,
I don't know
yeah.
what their tax codes are there, but
I don't either.
I just found that interesting. I do like looking at other places. Like, for example, I don't know how much international politics do you follow? Are you following what's going on in Ireland
No.
with Conor McGregor?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so he comes over here, he gets in front of the White House
Yes.
press corps and just kind of rants for a few minutes.
Uh-huh.
Well, then he goes back to Ireland and is like a savior there.
Yeah.
Like there's videos of him like basically being hoisted up like, yes, what you're saying is correct. Well, then the president of Ireland has to come out and is like, no, that's not completely true. But like you have basically the most prevalent celebrity of all Ireland coming out saying, no, this is not right. The immigration laws need to be changed.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that I would want to mess with Conor McGregor.
No.
He's the wealthiest Irishman on the planet.
I mean, that makes sense.
A tequila? Is it tequila that
He does
sells?
have. Oh, that's his whiskey. Proper 12.
Proper 12.
That's
the
his.
whiskey, Irish whiskey, yeah.
That makes sense.
Apparently he's worth billions of dollars now.
It's pretty good whiskey.
Never had it before.
Yeah.
I'm not a big whiskey guy.
That's pretty good. Yeah, that makes sense. So, but then also, did you see the president of Ireland in the Oval Office? Trump being troll Trump, because he can be all kinds of different kinds of Trump, but he was being troll Trump. He said, well, you got Rosie now, don't you?
I guess Rosie will have to leave. I guess Rosie will have to.
Oh,
she left Ireland?
No, she's in Ireland now. So
I guess you'll have to come back
said,
to America.
You got Rosie now. I forget what he said, but he did that whole laugh and shake his head thing.
Did you see he asked them to remove his portrait?
Yes.
In what I don't remember what I think it was Colorado.
Colorado, yeah. And it's pretty bad.
It's a bad portrait. It is a bad portrait.
Yeah. I mean, Obama's doesn't look that great either next to him, but it's pretty bad. I mean, it was good to have a week off, but now we're back.
Yeah. One of the other things that we did in Savannah is we went to this bookstore. It's called Books by the Bay. And it's a book. I don't know how this guy makes any money, by the way. I'm not really sure. We stayed in the store probably like half an hour to an hour.
Do they sell alcohol?
No. So he sells only first edition books.
Oh.
Only first edition. Okay. Like these books are thousands of dollars.
Nope.
5 figures, 6-figure books. And so I'm asking him, like, what's the most expensive book you have in here? So he pulls out, the table was about like this size, and it was covered by towels, which was a beach towel, which I thought was odd. But anyways, then I realized it was in front of the window, so it was protecting against the sun. Mm-hmm. He had a first edition Gone with the Wind signed by the author. Then he proceeds to tell us about these. Apparently, when Stephen King first started writing, he wrote under a different pen name. And he wrote 4 books. 3 of the 4 are very easy to find. You can find them pretty much at any store. But the 4th one, forgive me if you know what I'm talking about. I don't remember the names. Mm-hmm. I'm not a Stephen King fan particularly. But he said the 4th one, there was only 100 copies ever printed. And I'm like, why was there only 100? So many questions came about into my head that I didn't want to interrupt his story. And he said, I found them. I found 2 copies of it. Huh. So he has 2 complete sets. And he says, as far as I know, I'm the only one that has the full sets.
Wow.
And I have 2 sets of them. He said, those are in a bank. Those are not, those are not in the store.
Yeah.
He said they're valued at hundreds of thousands of dollars, the complete sets of these books. And I'm just thinking to myself, like, man, what a niche market to have is like, I have 4 books that are worth 6 figures, each set of them. He did have some really cool books. Like he had a book in there from 1064. It was a Bible, one of the first English Bibles that was it was handwritten by a priest, and it somehow made it to America. And then he has a copy. He has it. He has one of the originals.
Wow.
It was in rough shape.
Yeah, I bet.
But like those are the kind of things that we did.
That's pretty cool.
That would have been very boring to my kids.
Yeah. Traveling without the kids is fun though.
I encourage everyone to do it. So, all right. Have a good week, man.